Um, so I was thinking today, this morning anyway, about the whole 15-minute city thing. And it's funny when you look at the mainstream media, they like to say, oh, the conspiracy theorists, and they even had this guy on, a professor from the university, and he's like laughing about it and stuff. Yeah, well, I hope his grandchildren get to see that clip, because they will be living in a 15-minute city if we carry on the way we're carrying on. And like in the city that I'm in, they want to do turn it into 15 districts, and they say, that's just, and it actually makes sense. Like, that's how they do these things, right? Like, they're gonna do something that would make some sense, and then they say, well, we're not gonna go all the way over there and do that. You never would have thought that they would have had the whole world like that, do what it did. It was quite amazing. It was, there's not like one control. Yeah, you better think that through a little longer. And I mean, that's just humanity. We've kind of been doing that kind of thing for a long, long time. Like, as far as, how do you say, it's a funny realm. A lot of bad things can happen in this realm to people, and there'll always be those people on the top that like seem to be able to skirt that, right? Like, you could be assured when we're eating the bugs, and we're not allowed to leave our little district. Funny enough, they like to use the words, they already set it out in our heads. And then anyway, when we're stuck in our districts, and I can guarantee you the people that are setting it up now, I mean, some of them won't be alive then, but their families and such, they'll always be at the top. They'll be flying around, jet setting, they'll be eating the best of steaks. They're just not gonna do what they want for us, because I guess it's that kind of a thing. I mean, I guess if I was running things and ultra wealthy for so many generations back that you'd lose track. I guess I would like to hold everybody else down too, because you want to make sure that you stay in control, right? And really controlling the mind seems to be one of the easiest things they can do, and got really good at it, I mean, you used to have to be pretty violent about things, but now you just keep putting it out there, and they have this media that's just keep putting it out there, and moving forward, always telling you there's a big problem and they got to solve it, and you're not going to, so they have to. And then you get all these other people that spend a lot of money on maybe getting an education, and they gotta how do you say, justify their debt, and save the world. They gotta save the world, right? I mean, where I am now, I know when I was in school, they taught that, I was under, a mile or two of ice, right? Or maybe it was like a kilometer or two, but I just remember them saying that, that this used to be under ice, and I don't know who melted that, I guess it kind of changed all on its, I don't know, man. I got a lot to say, but, when you upload something like this, you gotta watch, because there's going to be, of course, the what do they call that, Ministry of Truth. They're after you. They got their tentacles and everything. Nonetheless, so they're already doing this kind of a city planning in places. I was hoping it was going to be shady. I get a little bit of shade there, maybe. They're doing, so basically it'll start out like, of course, right, like, there's too much, well, they're doing it, right, too much congestion, and we have no way to pay for the roads, and, well, people aren't paying fuel tax on their EV now, so, we'll just take a picture every time you go, and we'll just charge you something, right? And then so when you're in your district and you're going to try to go to work, you better work in your district. You better shop in your district. You better find your entertainment in your district, because it's going to cost you to leave. See, that's like how they'll get there, right? Like, and then eventually, you know, I mean, with just how easy it is to adjust the population's minds on thing. If you get this many demerits on your social credit, you know, in the future here, which will be your money, you're a horrible person. You just hate the planet, and it'll work. It always works, you know. Like, just think about what the church did for centuries, and what people would do in the name of being a good person, being a God-fearing, God-loving, you know. God created us to, you know, murder each other and keep each other in account, right? See, even saying that word, that would get you, like, kind of struck, right? Ending each other, holding each other into to account. Anyway, I just wanted to say a little blurb about that, because I was thinking about it this morning, and I mean, it's coming. They're working on it. It's going full tilt, and there is something. I mean, there's so many, like, agendas and group meetings that these people get together, and mayors go and visit. There's so many of them now that, like, you know, you can't even name them all. Like, we all know the WEF, and then you got the WHO, right? And you got, there's just those ones are the ones that are in your face, but there's actually other ones. I was reading through one I had heard, and I heard it on Redacted a while back, a few months ago. So I thought I'll check it out myself, right? Like, so I was going through their site, and yep, you know, the mayors already, a lot of huge cities, and even here in Canada, have signed up to it. Well, like Toronto, maybe Montreal, Vancouver has signed up. So by 2030, and then you look at their agendas, and really it just goes on and on and on. Like, I was reading for hours, and I was like, oh wow, like, you know, like, I wouldn't even get to everything that they're planning, right? And maybe sometimes they just set lofty goals, right? Like, okay, well, let's just tell everybody, you know, it's a 15-minute city, and then everybody's going to say it's a 15-minute city, and it's going to happen, and oh no, and then you're like, you know, like 5 years later or whatever, they're like, no, it's an hour city. You can go within an hour. See? You're wrong. Right? And then as the next generation's just stuck at home, doom scrolling in depression, they'll narrow it down, right? Like, you know, sometimes I think they just set like a big lofty goal they could never meet, or, you know, they could meet if they want to be terrorists about it or whatever, which it's not beyond them. But they said it like that, so then later on when they're halfway there, everybody's like, see, they didn't put that element in there that you're all worried about, right? But by that time, everything is in place, like, it's good to go, right? Anyway, so I don't know. I mean, the best thing that people could do is talk about it and really actually think about it. Like I don't see anything good coming from any government we put in. They're all politicians. Here in Canada, like, they're just gaslighting politicians. And even Paul Vieira, like, when I first was hearing of it, it was like, great, because he's new to me compared to, you know, the turd there. That guy's a gaslighter, like, hardcore, right? And he's just something else on so many levels. But, you know, how do you say it? It's like a pendulum, and it'll go back and forth, right? And they just seem to move forward with the agenda, just different ways, right? So, you know, whatever country you're in, you know, your liberals are going to bring in all this kind of socialist stuff, and the conservatives are going to be like, oh, that's too much, you're paying it. They come in and they cut it back a little bit, but they keep a lot of it. And then what do? They get, like, how do you say, more, like, criminalizing things, you know, and just more conservatively harsh about things you should be allowed to do and such. And then when the liberals get back in after 4 or 8, then, you know, they carry on with that and move forward with it. It just keeps moving forward, right? So, like, the way I'm foreseeing, when that pendulum swings, I think it's going to swing pretty dang far. because it went really far to the left. So I think it's just gonna all that momentum just hanging up there like that. It's just gonna come whoof, whipping through and go hard. And so like even when liberals do say like, oh, Trump will be a dictator, I think it's possible. I mean, you look at some of the things he says, and I mean, I kind of like him, but I just know where it's all going. You know, to me, they're all a setup. I think things are gonna get pretty hot and heavy, like they're gonna just start banning, like blaming everything, right? Like, you know, like so, like for instance, like I really don't care about somebody's sexual orientation. I don't think they should be teaching it the way they do in school. Like, it's kind of like, oh, if you're depressed, because I've heard people saying this. I've heard people saying it to me, like educated people. They just like, oh, you know, if you're depressed, maybe could be because you're gay. You're just denying it, right? Like, and it's become this thing. Like, instead of being emo, you're gay or bi or pan or whatever, right? Like, you know. And the truth is, I really don't have any problems with those people, and I don't even care if they have a I don't even know what you would call it these days. They're like somebody, like a male that dresses like a female, you know, reading to kids in school. Who cares? You know, they are a part of the society around you, right? Like, they exist, and it's not going to make your kid think maybe I should do that. I mean, maybe, right? But that's up to them. And I mean, like, I just wouldn't care about that. It's how the left has gone so far in approaching these things, and like just some of the things they say is just like ludicrous, right? Give it to the right, and they say ludicrous stuff too, right? Like even in the province that I'm in, they're passing some like conservative type bill against that stuff, and when you really look at it, you're like, a lot of it is just unnecessary, like a lot of it. But that's what they do to get us going. You're either red or you're blue, right? And this is something I've been saying for a lot of years. You're red or you're blue, right? So that's for us. We're idiots. We're the fire or the water, right? Like these things that are set in our head, like in alchemy, like they're just set in us from a very young age, right? Like, you know. And meanwhile, you mix those two colors together, what do you get? You get purple. And I really do believe that the purple never left the scene. They're just really good at going in. Like, okay, like let's look at what Canada is. Canada started off as the Hudson Bay Company, okay? India, you had the British East India Company, right? And then, the Crown leaves and says, oh, okay, well, I think it's still considered part of its dominion. They used to use that word, dominion, right? They leave and they're like, oh, sorry, it was a different time. We were so, harsh about it, but we're going to let you all to your own politics and stuff. They set up the same parliamentary system and court systems, and it just looks the same all around the world. The purple's running it still, okay? So, it was just a quick bit. I could go on and really doing politics is kind of it's a shit show, right? We could do without a lot of it, right? Everybody wanted to tell other people what to do, right? And it's great when you just have this media arm that just constantly sending people fears of one way or the other, right? So, I'm just hoping humanity lightens up a little bit. Lightens up and realizes that somebody else is in control, those politicians, I just see them purely as puppets, and they're actors, and they know it. So they don't care if they get demonized in the media. It's all a stage to them. So to them, they're like, it'd be like you play the real bad guy, the real horrible person in a movie or on a play or something, right? The audience, they're under a spell, right? Like, that's what happens when you're watching something. You get emotional over it, like, you're actually under a spell. So they know you're just under a spell, you're a dumbass, you know, you're hating that character, and that's all they are. They're just characters, right? So in politics, that's how I see them. They're just characters on a stage. They really could care less, you know, if we like them or not. Only for the time being, the entities that run them, whether it's their political party, right? Because there's a lot of control from the party. I imagine they want to be liked at some point because they got to get in and do their great work. But other than that, it's just a stage, just a play. That's all it is.